Hello, and welcome to this Theater Talk for English by Sanaz Toossi. I'm Veracity Butcher, and I'm a Roundabout teaching artist. I use she pronouns.
I'm Alan Washington. I'm also a teaching artist here at Roundabout, and I use the he series of pronouns. And we are here to talk a little bit about what the play is about and what we think you might be excited to keep an eye out for when you see the production. So English is a play set in an Iranian classroom in the year 2008, and it follows a teacher and her 4 adult students as they are preparing for the test of English as a foreign language, or the TOEFL exam, as they chase fluency in a language which for each of them carries a very different meaning. They are tested both personally and professionally, and they are challenged to push each other to gain a deeper understanding of the English language and perhaps even a deeper understanding of themselves in the process.
Indeed, and Sanaz Toossi's usage of English in this play is very compelling. She uses unaccented English to denote the speaking of Farsi and accented English to denote the speaking of English.
Right.
And at the top of the play, the premise is set that in this classroom, English is to be the only language spoken. And that agreement is constantly and comically broken throughout the piece.
Yes, that's such an interesting device, by the way. I've never seen that done on stage, so I'm really excited to see that in this production.
Yes, and this actually was produced before by Roundabout in 2022 at Atlantic Theater Company in the world premiere production. I didn't have the opportunity to see that. Did you?
No, I didn't see that production, unfortunately, either. But I'm really excited about this Broadway premiere production. And I should also say that at the time of recording this video, we haven't seen the production, as we said, but also rehearsals haven't even begun. So we will be speaking about the play through the lens of only having read the play.
Yes, and Sanaz Toossi is just an incredible playwright. She has an incredible canon of work, and she got the Pulitzer Prize for this piece, which is incredible.
Yes, congrats.
Yes, congrats. And I believe this is her Broadway debut.
Yes.
Which, extra congrats on that. That's fabulous.
Yeah, that's so exciting. I love this play so much.
Me too.
I'm remembering when we were preparing for this Theater Talks, we just could not stop raving about the writing of this play and Sanaz's work on this play. And specifically, I'm thinking about what it made me think about as I was reading it. I found myself remembering the people in my life who are currently learning English as a second or third language. And the play gave me even more empathy for those people in my life. And I feel like an even deeper connection to them having read this play, which I think is such a beautiful and powerful offering that this play gave to me.
Yes, I think this play is the epitome of elegant. It's written so beautifully, and it does just strike you at the heart with, as you said, empathy. It heightens empathy. For me, I think of my family and my friends, my experience as a first-generation immigrant. I think about existing in multiple languages and existing in multiple cultural identities, and code switching, which is sort of the idea of reverting to a language depending on context. In this play, the English teacher encourages the students to speak only in English, and I really related to that because at my alma mater, Middlebury, I was subscribed to a language pledge. When I went abroad to Egypt, I was under the social and academic contract to speak solely in Arabic for the entirety of my time abroad, which is very difficult. And in this play, you'll see characters being asked questions in English and them replying in Farsi. I could totally relate to that inclination and that impulse to code switch. It happened to me throughout my language pledge.
Wow. Do you think the language pledge actually helped you learn the language?
Yes, I do. I think immersion is definitely key when learning a language, but it's easier said than done. And the idea of code switching is just imbued and braided throughout the piece in a very beautiful way. The characters code switch, but not only the characters, but also Sanaz Toossi code switches, and her choices to do that are very interesting to me.
Yeah, Sanaz, like uses the language to code switch. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, she uses the accents to code switch, and she may or may not be using language at certain points too.
Oh, wow. Yeah, speaking of language, I mean, the play is called English. It's so much about language, and I found myself thinking about this term lingua franca, which basically is a common language used in like global business and global culture, really. And I found myself being like, do we need a lingua franca? We might. But if we do need a lingua franca, does that language have to be English?
And why is it English?
And why is it English? Exactly. It's so interesting language.
It is. And it's also such an opportunity for comedy in this piece. Like you'll see mispronunciation, like native Farsi speakers tend to sub a V for a W. So there's that opportunity for comedy there, as well as just miscommunication in general can be really funny.
Yeah.
So that's definitely made hay of in this piece.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Sanaz Toossi is an incredible writer. And what I love that she's done with this play is, you know, it's set in Iran in 2008. And so there's a deep historical context that exists for this play. And yet Sanaz does an excellent job of like making that historical context really an undercurrent of the play and not making the play about history or about politics. It's really about character, and it's very story driven. And all of these characters are so different. There's one character is an 18-year-old who is a student, and it you know, runs the gamut all the way up to a grandmother learning English for the first time. Intergenerational, exactly. And all of them, because of that undercurrent of history, have a different relationship to the English language and are learning it for very different reasons.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's going to be a phenomenal cast. It's the original cast, which is very exciting. The entire cast just brings so much to the table. It's a stellar group of actors. I know the audience is going to be really excited.
There's also an article in the Upstage Guide about the Iranian Revolution of 1979. And I'm not going to bore you all with a history lesson, but I will just say that that article gave me some really juicy context to think about as I was reading this play. And I think it'll give you some really interesting context to think about when you watch the play.
And to bear in mind, this piece takes place in 2008. So it's not Iran of 2024, and it's not Iran of 1979. So just to have a little of context there is super helpful. I know it helped me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we close out, we'd love to leave you with a quote that you can take into the theater, think about. Towards the end of the piece, one of the characters says, "My English is, you can hear the gap between not from here, not from there. I think I live there, in that gap."
Beautiful.
I love that line.
I love that line too, and I love hearing you say that line.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you all for joining us for this episode of Theater Talks. We can't wait to see you at the theater.
Yeah, see you at the theater. See you on Broadway.
Bye.
Bye.